I say world famous because NHL is what we think about, but he has done his share of coaching all over the world, including Latvia and Poland even. And I know Brother Ray was excited to read that you were part of Poland, a little bit of our heritage in there. So welcome to the show, Ted, and thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thanks very much, Steve and Ray, for having me on.
We really want to get into the book you wrote. I don't know if everybody knows. It's called Life in Two Worlds. And it's a Ted Nolan story from the very beginning of his life, really, and going through hockey. But it's a lot more than that, a lot deeper than that. It's pretty much current up to the present day as well, because you're still a very active person. What we'd like to do, Ted, is delve into the whole thing. The story I found as personal experiences rather than just a bunch of storytelling. You ran into a lot of racial issues, bigotry, and the prejudice that probably a lot of people don't know about and don't even know exists out there. What got you started? I mean, obviously you went through whatever it was that you went through and went through for a long period of time. When did you decide to write a book about it? And was it more of like a soul cleansing aspect of it, or was it more of making people aware? Tell us how this all began with the story.
Oh, it happened. I never planned on, first of all, I never planned on being a hockey player. I never planned on being a hockey coach. And certainly I never planned on writing a book. It just, all three just kind of fell into place. And up here in Canada, we have a special day called the Truth and Reconciliation. A day of remembrance of a lot of our people got taken from their families and put into these schools, and a lot of horrific things that happened to them: sexual abuse, physical abuse. And I grew up in that era where they got taken away. And anyways, I went on the interview, and we're talking about the days and the stories you heard from your parents, and I was telling one story where my mom told me with our language. Our language was they wanted to take the Indian out of the Indian, and by doing that was taking our language. And she said some people, tongues were nailed to a board for speaking the language, and these were kids. So, even now, when I repeat the story, it's kind of it's gut wrenching. Really, it's tough to repeat. So all those stories were kind of kept inside. We knew all the stories, and anyways, I did this interview on radio on Truth and Reconciliation, and the book company listened to the podcast like we're doing here today. And they called me up and asked if I'd be interested in writing a book. So I talked to my family because there was some. If I was going to write it, I really wanted to get the truth out. And there's some stuff that I wasn't certainly proud of, but there's a lot of things we do in life that we're not proud of. But the things that happened to me in hockey, I just really wanted to get it out because I just really believe there's a lot of kids out there that got a tremendous amount of talent, got a tremendous amount of ability. Then all of a sudden they run into a wall and they can't get through it, and they pack up and they go home. And I was one of those kids. When I was 16 years old, I faced that big decision in my life. Should I go home like everybody else? And I refused to.
One of the things I noticed, Ted, is it was more than one time that you came to that kind of a crossroads where you could have given up and you felt like you should have, and you even reflect on some people in your family that kind of did give up in a way, and you kept coming back, and I found that really inspiring to see that someone who could be going through what you were doing, what you were going through, but you still kept going back. And was it because I know you did mention that it was because part of it was because you felt you needed to kind of keep going. You were doing it for your family, doing it for the other kids, maybe coming up behind you. But it also seemed like you wanted to have some faith that, things could get better, and that maybe you could play a little bit of a part in that.
You know what? When when I was 16 years old, I grew up loving the game of hockey. Like in a lot of neighborhoods, maybe you play baseball, you play soccer, whatever. Up in Canada, and especially in the north, and it's cold. So a lot of the things we do is we play hockey. So I just fell in love with the game, and um, I just really fell in love with it. I really wanted to, and all of a sudden I got asked to go to this town on the Manitoba border in Ontario and Manitoba. It's about 18 hours away from my home, and they asked me to come up and play. And my father just passed away that year, and they asked me to go up. And as much as I loved hockey, I couldn't wait to go. And when I got there, it was totally opposite of what I thought. I sort of got I was going to Disney World. I was so excited. They're going to put me in a billet home. They're going to give me some skates that I actually fit. They're going to put me in a real league. I was going to play. And all of a sudden, the reality of life hit me. I mean, I went to school. I had long hair back in the day, and I powwow danced at all the powwows. I went to ceremony, and here I was in a town that didn't like our people too much, and the team that I was trying out didn't like me either. So I never fought in hockey in my life. I went there, had I think 2 fights my first practice. Then I went to school, had some more fights at school. Then I couldn't handle both at the same time, so I quit school. I quit school in grade 10. I went back eventually, but that was a turning point in my life because I stopped loving the game to trying to survive in the game. And once I put that survival mode in, I really wanted to prove that we can. In spite of all the obstacles that are out there, despite all the people telling us we can't, I really wanted to prove, because there's thousands of kids that were probably 5 times, 10 times better than I was, but they ran into the same thing, and you don't blame them. They went home. And if my father was alive, I don't think I don't think he would let me stay either.
You know, you talk about your dad, and he was a very, very big influence in your life, and he passed when you were very young. When you were about 12 years old or so?
Yeah, 15, 16 years old when he
Okay,
passed.
so you grow up in this, what do they call them, reservations in Canada?
And now they call it First Nation communities.
All right, so you're in a First Nations community. You're very, very plain about it in the book. It was pretty deeply impoverished. You had 11 siblings, a mom and a dad, in a small home. And obviously you have people that you communicate with all the time. You know that there's some trials and tribulations out there, but you probably hadn't seen much of it until you ventured out playing hockey. But being in that family unit that you did have, with those strong family ties and with the people of the community that you were close with, do you feel that helped you forge the character that you obviously have, but that you knew you needed at the time to get through stuff like that?
No question. Like I said, I had 6 brothers and 5 sisters, and my brothers were, growing up in an impoverished community, you just grow up differently. I mean, there's a lot of fighting on the roads and on the streets, and kind of like little gangs form, and there's a lot of drinking and a lot of stuff going on that kids shouldn't be part of. And I grew up in that environment, and so I was pretty tough for my age, because I knew how to try to take care of myself. And but when I seen others that were probably 5 times, like I said, 5, 6 times better than I was, and they went out and they ventured, and they couldn't handle all the racism, the name calling, the bullying, the prejudice that was out there, and they came home. And my mom always told me, said, "Don't you ever trust those white people. Don't you ever trust them." And that's the way I grew up. I mean, because we lived on a reservation. We went to the city, but we came home at nighttime. And then I didn't really believe her. I said, how can you not trust people? I mean, people are people, but because of the situation there, it wasn't very nice. And I just went, and all of a sudden I'm in Kenora, crying myself to sleep as a 16-year-old, wondering why. And I'm going, maybe she was right. Maybe I can't trust them. But I wanted to prove that I could. I wanted to prove that I could play. And I tell you the truth, that year, I don't remember zero. I looked at the archives. I looked at the newspaper clippings. I won Rookie of the Year on a team. I scored 28 goals. And the following year, I came back and I made probably the top junior league in Canada, the Ontario Hockey League, and I played for the Sioux Greyhounds. And I made it in spite of, not because I love to.
You're talking about, that whole aspect of taking from your family and taking it to heart and taking it on the road when you started playing hockey. But when you have to deal with the kind of bigotry and the testing that goes on there, how did you even bother? I don't know. I probably wouldn't even bother worrying about it or not. But were you able to decipher when someone was calling you names or getting in your ear about something where they were just trying to get you off your game, and when they really meant it, and when they really were really giving you some heartful digs? Were you able to decipher that? I mean, you're kind of young. You were able to figure that out, or you just drop the gloves, worry about it later?
No, I could certainly tell. There were some people look at you and say, "Hey, what are you doing here, you stinking Indian?" And I look at him and I'm going, "What are you talking about?" And you could tell he was embarrassed by the words he just said, because he heard them somewhere else. And he wanted to say the same thing that he heard. So I think a lot of this stuff is taught. You learn it from somewhere. But there's some really mean guys that say it, and they mean it, and they would take your head off if they could. So you learn how to decipher all those things, and you learn to keep your back against the wall. Every time you went somewhere, my brothers told me, said, make sure you know the escape route every time you go into a building, Ted. Know where the doors are, know where the windows are. Always don't let anybody sit behind you. And I'm going, that's a weird thing to talk to a 12-year-old about. But those are realities of life that I grew up with. And but the big thing is, my father loved hockey. He loved it as much as anybody. He finally saved enough money to put me in a real league when I was, I don't know, about 8 years old. Because I just played I made my own rink. You read the book. I made my own rink in my backyard.
Tell us about that. That's awesome.
The pail was about this big, I swear to God, and I pumped, because we didn't have indoor electricity or indoor plumbing, and I pumped that pail of water, and I walk around my corner of my house as an 8-year-old. Now I think of it, that when I got to the back, probably it's half full, because I probably wasn't strong enough to carry it, and I made that rink, and that's where I learned how to play. Then all of a sudden, parents saved enough money to put me in a recreation league. It's kind of like, where everybody starts off playing the game, then you go to AAA and all that stuff. But I played house league my whole life. I never played AA, single A, double A. I played house league hockey until someone saw me play. I don't know who was a person, but I'm thankful for it.
You can look at that story, and I recommend this book big time. There's just the stories in it about how you persevered, like you just said, from 8 years old. Okay, just you showed perseverance just with those buckets of water, for crying out loud, right? It's all the way to house league hockey. Then you get into Kenora, you said, you're getting pretty close to packing it in, and you decide not to. You're not going to let people get to you. You were thinking also not just about yourself, though, were you? You were thinking about people that are coming behind you, that you need to blaze a bit of a trail and let people know that you're serious, where you come from, people are serious, and whether it's hockey or anything else in life. At a young age, you were showing a lot of perseverance just to get to where you were, and then next thing you know, you're being looked at for the NHL. So that's something to be said.
Yeah, sitting around when, because like I said, we didn't have TV and we had radio and all that stuff. And we'd sit around and talk all the time. We talk about stories and we talk about this, and the support I received, not financial support, because we didn't have any. I came home for one Christmas after the year in Kenora, and everybody in my family all chipped in and bought me a winter coat. And that was the first time I ever had a winter coat in my life. So the support I had, the encouragement I had from my siblings, and we played baseball, we played hockey on reserve, and we loved sports. And I would just happen to be one of those ones that was, given a little special talent on certain ability with hockey, and they thought I could go on, and I didn't want to throw it away. So I competed like a son of a gun, and and when I got to the junior level, that's when it changed again, because I realized all these guys had agents, they had fitness programs. They went to gyms and they worked out, and they talked about wrist curls and leg squats and conditioning coaches. And I'm going, it's like talking Chinese to me. I'm going, I didn't understand nothing, because only thing I did was I just played. And when I went to my first training camp in pro, and we had to lift this 200-pound weight, something like 10 times. And then we had to hop on this big bike machine. They put this thing over your nose to test your VO2 max, your air capacity. And anyways, this weight, I go underneath the bar and I pushed the 200-pound, I got it up, but it came down and it didn't go back up. I couldn't get it up. And anyways, some guys were laughing at me. I'm going, son of a gun. I said, so I looked at them, I said, weights don't hit back. I do. I kind of took that drive to do it, and I learned right on the spot. So the next summer, I started off-ice conditioning on my own.
Now, was that when you went to the Sioux?
When I went to the Sioux, and I've had a chance to play with one of the greatest players of all time.
Yeah, that was my next point. Go right ahead. Let us know. Tell us about it.
Was there, Craig Hartsburg, Greg Millen, and I seen all these guys, and that's when I started learning about off-ice conditioning program. All these guys skated before they got to training camp. They all went to skills camps, and I'm going, boy, oh boy, I just came back from a fastball tournament up in Saskatchewan. 48-hour bus ride. We came home, and I got home at 5 a.m, grabbed my stuff out of the shed. I went to practice. Skates were duller than heck. And that's how I went to my first training camp. So very, very ill prepared. I didn't know too much. And I just learned as I went. Next thing you knew, I was in Kenora. I survived. Then I came back the following year and I made the team.
Now, when you got that far, I know, and you're blessed enough also to have two awesome sons who also made it to the NHL, which had to be something real prideful for you. I get the feeling that back in the day, how you found out you were drafted by the Red Wings was a little different than how they do it now with the big pomp and circumstance, right? You tell us about how you found out you were drafted.
Like I said, I grew up very shy, because on a reservation, you go into the city, it's all a lot of white people, and you're the only brown skin in the room, and they don't seem to. So you just be quiet and try to fit in. And I didn't speak too much, and I didn't know too much about the hockey, the AAA level, and the special programs and the leagues, and all these guys played it their whole lives. And I then all of a sudden during the hockey season, the guys were talking about going to maybe getting picked by Chicago, or getting picked by Montreal, or getting picked by the Leafs. I'm going, how the heck you get picked? And they were talking about the draft, and I had no foggiest idea what the NHL draft was. I played my junior hockey game my last year, and I enrolled. I wanted to be a police officer. As I told you, I quit school in Kenora in grade 10, but I went back to school the following year, and I did graduate because I wanted to get at least my grade 12 so I could become a police officer. So I enrolled, and all of a sudden I'm sitting down playing cards with my mom and my girlfriend, who's my wife now. We were playing cribbage, and all of a sudden the radio announcer come on and said, news out of Montreal that Garden River resident Ted Nolan just got drafted in the 5th round by the Detroit Red Wings. I'm going, wow. So, and my father, just like I said, he just passed away, and times were lean. So it wasn't a time to celebrate. It wasn't, you just kind of let it go in one year, out the other year, but down deep, I'm going, man, I got drafted. So I hopped in my old uh, Dodge Monaco I bought. $150 I bought that car. And I went up into the woods, me and my girlfriend, and I jumped and I hollered and I screamed. And before you knew it, I was in the reality of professional sports.
So they didn't really prepare you. They didn't prepare you in junior in major junior for how the process worked for being drafted. And did you know that there were scouts there, people scouting you? Obviously, somebody saw you. And
Yeah, I think it was all around. But like I said, when in that Kenora year, it really, we talk about mental health a lot, and I think from the year I was in Kenora, it kind of really broke my spirit. And I just went in and did my thing because I down deep, I still liked to play. I didn't love to play anymore, but I liked to play. And the higher I got up, the more our community and more my family they got excited with me playing somewhere. And so I said, oh, I'll keep playing, but I didn't play with the same love that I had. I just played. And so I was ill prepared. I didn't know what agents were. Then all of a sudden, this guy called me and said, "Hey, Ted, they want to give you a contract for." He said they'll pay. I said, "They get paid?" So I didn't even know NHL players got paid to play. So they said they're going to give you. I worked out a deal. It's a two-way contract. You're going to get $17,000 in the American Hockey or the CHL, and they're going to give you a $6,000 signing bonus. I said, $6,000 just to sign a paper? I said, where do I sign? So then I found out when I was on the team, I was the lowest paid player by a country mile. All the other guys were back then. It wasn't big signing bonuses, but they were getting 20, 25, 50, and I got 6. So I kind of learned really quick. Then in the off season, I took a course called the Harvard Law School of Negotiations. So I took a course, and I said, I have to do my own contract. So the following year, I did my own contract.
Wow, that's real interesting. Well, again, when we're on this thread of perseverance, Ted, just seems like whenever something hits you in the head in life, you find a way to either slip that shot or take it and hit back, like you said. Tell us about
before you
finally made it. Yeah.
So before you go on, to make that point, and I do a lot of speaking to a lot of young people, and the one thing my father told me when I was very young, he said, learn to work with what you have. Learn to win with what you have, or you don't win at all. So whatever, some kids I can't play good because my stick isn't good, or I can't hit the ball back because I got a short bat. I can't catch the ball because I just really worked with what I had. I didn't have to have the best in order to be my best. So
another quote from your dad, right? I remember reading that one, which really touched, because that's something that really could send a person on the right path just with that phrase alone.
Yeah. So, anyways, that's what I'm sorry, but to go on, I just really want to make that point for all the young kids. If there is young kids listening, that they all inspire to be, and they think they have to have the best, but you don't. You really don't.
Yeah, and then like you said, here you are at the NHL level now, and you kind of half can't believe it. No matter how good anyone is, getting to the NHL is just such an ardent task. But you get to the Red Wings camp, and things are still not perfect for you. But Ted Lindsay helped put you at ease there. Tell us about that.
Well, like I said, when you go to junior hockey, it's a pretty big step, especially from house league hockey to your junior hockey. It's kind of like grabbing a kid from house league hockey and put them NCAA Division I schooling hockey. It's quite a big jump. So that was a big jump. And then when I got drafted to professional sport, and I went there, and now I'm playing with men. And I was never the biggest guy in the world. I played at 180 pounds, 175 pounds. And I went to camp, and these guys, their legs were their legs were just massive. and their arms were just, you could just see the muscles in their arms and their jaw lines, and they had beards and mustaches, and they're big. I'm going, holy man, I'm in a different world. I felt like Dorothy and Wizard of Oz. I wasn't in Kansas anymore. So I was very, very intimidated physically for the first time in my life, and because I knew I couldn't compete with these guys. So I snuck into the dressing room, grabbed my skates because they were my skates. I went to the bus station. I caught a bus home. It was like a 14-hour bus ride to home. I got home. My mom said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I can't play there. They're just too big." Then she said, "Well, this guy keeps calling here for the last couple of days. Where were you?" I took the long route to get home because I was embarrassed. And she said, "Ted Lindsay, some guy named Ted Lindsay keeps calling here for you." So, anyways, Ted calls me, and it was probably the turning point of my life. And I think everybody needs that type of mentor, coach, teacher, parent. Anyways, he asked me what was wrong. I said, "Ted, I can't play there. I mean, it's too fast. The guys are too strong." I said, "I'm just going to be I'll just stay home, be a police officer." And he said, "Ted, that's what we teach you for. You're not going to play you're not playing in the National Hockey League tomorrow. You're going into the minor." I didn't even know about minor leagues. And I said, "We're going to send you into the minor leagues, and that's where you'll train, you get better, you get stronger, you get to play with men that are not as fast as the NHL guys, but are still pretty quick. You'll learn." And thank God for that call, because I'm not too sure about too many GMs would be calling kids if they left camp now. If you leave, you're done. It does. But he saw that I was having a very difficult time, and that was a lesson that I learned that I wanted to keep into with me for future reference if I ever got into hockey or leadership positions, because people need somebody in their corner all the time.
That's amazing that somebody at that level and with that reputation would reach out to you. Like, it's not like you were like the first round draft pick or anything, right? But he just, I guess he just seemed like the type of guy that wanted to do the right thing by his players, and I can imagine just that the entire culture there must have been a little bit more supportive than maybe what you had seen in juniors.
Oh yeah, no question. Then I had a chance to play in the Central Hockey League the first year, and I played with um, a few NHL players that were just winding up their career. Then we went to the American Hockey League and had a chance to play with Peter Mahovlich. He won a few Stanley Cups with the Montreal Canadiens. Tom Blayden won a few Stanley Cups with the Philadelphia Flyers. So I had a chance to play with all these guys, and Bill Hogebaum was he was a really good player. Played a little bit in the NHL, I believe, but a vast majority of it was in the old World Hockey Association, and not so much a coach, but the players kind of took you underneath their wings, and they because I just went one way all the time. I just went fast, and I tried to get there as quick as I could. I didn't angle off properly. I didn't do a lot of things that I should have passed when I shot. Anyways, the player said, "Ted, or Chief, you don't have to freaking skate hard all the time. Just skate hard when you're going forward check. When you come back, just stay in your lane, wait for somebody to come." So I had my hockey schools happened when I became a professional hockey player by former players, not so much the coach, but by former players that took you by their wing and they show you how to handle the stick a little bit better. So I had great tutelage for a year and a half when I was in the American Hockey League, and we won the Calder Cup. And then the following year, I got my first call up to Detroit Red Wings.
And you tell a story. Well, you tell a story, which again is just so many interesting takes. Someone could just tell a story, but you get in on these little things that were going on in your mind or happening right in front of you at the time that these different milestones in your career or in your life were happening. When your first game was in Chicago, and you were standing out in front of the arena, and there was a little tobacco offering that you talk about in the book.
Yeah, in our First Nation traditions, we have medicines with sage and tobacco and cedar and we combine and we do offerings. Then the smoke goes up to the Creator, which is God, and tobacco is a big part of that. So when I got up to Chicago, walking the Chicago Stadium, boy, oh boy, that with old organ that was playing, and that's where Bobby Hall played, and Dennis Hall, and Stan Mikita, and all those guys. And my favorite player was Keith Magnuson. I'm not really sure if anybody knows who he is.
Yeah.
I just loved the way he competed. And anyways, I went outside and I couldn't find a piece of, there's so much cement around with paved driveways and whatever. So I found some grass and I put some tobacco down. And I did it not so much for, oh, hey, Ted, you did a good job. No, it was for the people before me who did even a better job. Preparing for you and fighting for you and staying up for our rights in order for a young guy like me to have that opportunity. So it was for all the people back home who sacrificed so much for me to even be in that position.
And when oh, go ahead, Ray.
You know, how rare of an occurrence was it to have a First Nation player in the NHL? I know there was some before you, obviously, and I remember Reggie Leach prominently, but was it
I was just gonna hit on that subject.
Yeah. So I mean, was it still a very? Because I never really kept track of who was what, right? So was it a real rare occurrence still? I guess when you were playing in the '70s, not too many Indigenous players in the league.
Not too many at all. I mean, there's a few, maybe a couple when I played in the Ontario Hockey League. And I knew there was a couple out west. So we all knew of one another, but to get to the National Hockey League, there wasn't. When I got to Detroit, I had a chance to play with Rachel Leach. When I got to the Islander, I had a chance with Brian Trottier, who's a Métis, but Johnny Schwad in Pittsburgh. So I had a chance to play with a few, but very, very few. And the number of people that we have playing with the ability to play, I was amazed that we didn't have more. Like I was shocked. How come there's not more? Because we play the game with so much passion on the communities but when you're not given an opportunity, and it's very, very difficult. So there was a lot of people that should have played before me and probably should have played after me, but unfortunately, stereotypically they get registered similar to what my book is. The thing that almost destroyed me when I got let go by the Buffalo Sabres. I know we're jumping ahead a little bit too much, but they said I was drinking all the time, and that was one of the worst comments anybody could ever say about. I came to practice drunk. I didn't work hard enough. All the typical things that they said about our people. Now all of a sudden I'm there, and then all of a sudden they're picking on. So a lot of these young kids come in, and when I coached Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds with the Ontario Hockey, there was 2 Native kids on the team, and they both wanted them sent home the first day I was there. I said, why? So one's a very undisciplined. He doesn't show up on time, and he takes the stupidest penalties in the world, and plus he's not even that good. I said, well, anybody ever teach him and tell him he can't do it? So anyways, I begged to listen. I kept him. Anyways, the player happened to be Denny Lambert, and he played over 500 NHL games. He played with the Ottawa Senators. He's married. He has 2 kids. One went to law school. One's a dentist. He's a police officer. He won Citizen of the Year in Sault Ste. Marie. But if I wasn't there, the kid wouldn't even had a chance to play. So there's just so many kids out there who just need opportunities.
And Chris Simon, too, on that note, when you were coaching, I think he benefited from Ted Nolan's presence in his life as well.
Yeah, and Chris was another one. They traded him from the Ottawa 67s to Sault Ste. Marie because I was a First Nation Ojibwe coach, and he was Ojibwe, and then they thought this Ojibwe thing could work because Chris had some major issues growing up. He was a little bit undisciplined. He quit school. He wouldn't go to school. But anyways, the manager asked me one day. He said, "Would you be interested?" I said, "I'd love to coach him. Who wouldn't?" I mean, he's 6'4". He's tough as a rat caca. He could play. He could shoot. He could. Oh man, he's a player. So anyway, we got him, and within the first week, I suspended him. I didn't wait for the league to suspend him. I suspended him because he was doing some things in practice that shouldn't have been done. He was slashing the players. He was being a little bit over aggressive, and he didn't go to school and all this stuff. So I put some rules in. I said, "Chris, in order for you to play here, there's got to be some rules. And you're going to get up at 6 o'clock every morning, and you're going to meet me at the gym, and you're going to start working out, and you're going to start doing this. If you're not going to school, you come to the rink and work with me, and blah, blah, blah." So we kept him busy. We kept him busy all day long. Then all of a sudden, before he knew it, he didn't drink anymore. Then all of a sudden, 2 years later, he's playing in the National Hockey League, brings the Stanley Cup back to Wawa. And what a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful man. Unfortunately, with the head trauma and what have you, he took his own life almost a year and a half ago.
And like Ray was just mentioning that he beat me to the punch. But when you were with Detroit coming up, did you cross paths with Reggie Leach? Did you have to get it while he was winding down his career? Did you get a chance to actually play with him, or create a bond of any kind with him?
Oh yeah. I created a bond with him, and we kind of keep in contact. And he's got a partner now, a new partner on a community that's not too far from us back home. And I know his partner, and wonderful, wonderful lady, and we see each other all the time. We have this big tournament in Canada called the Little NHL, and it's amazing why they started it. And our forefathers started this tournament because it was for players like myself who went into the cities, because we lived on a First Nation community outside the cities, and sometimes we're isolated communities. And anyways, we could never. They said we weren't never good enough to play on the travel teams. I beg to differ, but they always said we weren't good enough. So the forefathers said we have to let our kids have a chance to go on a tournament, get into a hotel room, make some friends, and that's what sport's all about. So they created this tournament back in 1969, 1970, called the Little NHL. I was the first participant with one of the teams. And we just celebrated 54 years of this tournament. So it's an all First Nation tournament just for kids in Ontario, and the kids just absolutely love it. Both my boys played in it. Jonathan Chichu with the San Jose Sharks, he played in it. So it's just a wonderful, wonderful tournament. The best part about this tournament, there's no name calling, because we all look the same. So you're not going to call somebody will say, "You too." So anyways, it's a great tournament, and we have a lot of players now coming out of that tournament playing major junior hockey and eventually getting to the National Hockey League.
And moving forward down your career, the back injury got you out, but you saw it almost like a relief, a weight off your shoulders when the doctor said you couldn't play anymore. You had a brief career. Tell us about that, because number one, again, you've had like this life of contradictions and these tug of wars in your own psyche for such a long time. You make it to the NHL, the game itself, you started to not love so much, but then you make it to the NHL. Then you go into the NHL, and then you're up and down, and you're going through trials and tribulations that you went through there. But then you wind up getting a back injury, and things didn't get better for you. So you went to the doctors. They told you you were done, but you said that felt kind of like a weight that was lifted off you.
Yeah. The year in Kenora really made a difference in my approach to hockey. I just didn't like the game anymore. I just didn't like the way I was treated. I wasn't the biggest guy in the world, and you get slashed all the time. You get poked in the behind. You get hit. You get elbowed. You get sucker punched. I mean, it was just awful. So, anyways, when I hurt my back, um, in flashback from Kenora when I was 16 to 26 years old, that's 10-year gap. And when I injured my back, I went to the doctor and he said, Ted, I got some bad news for you. Unfortunately, your back is won't heal enough, and looks like your career is going to be over. So I walked out of that doctor's office. It was kind of like a jubilation. It was kind of like I was released from jail. I come out of that building. I was so really happy, elated because I couldn't play anymore. Can you imagine that? I mean, a game that you play, and then all of a sudden you're so happy you can't play it anymore. Uh, that's when things ain't right. So I was just so happy that I couldn't play. I was home. I loved my home. I loved my family, and I didn't have to go to training camp or go through all that stuff all over again and battling. And it was just it was really hard. So and there I was, 26 years old, not not really knowing what I really wanted to do because I went back to school and by then it was police officer wasn't quite maybe I was a little bit too older for that and I went back and then I said, oh, maybe I'll just go back to school and try to be a businessman of some sort, and I went back to school.
When I read that, part, oh, sorry, Steve. Yeah.
We delayed over there. Sorry about that. No, I was just saying. At that point, how did you handle that next turn, that quick turn of events, and turn that into a little bit of reinventing Ted Nolan?
It was one of those things where, I talk to kids all the time, and when I grew up, we didn't have the best clothing in the world. Sometimes we'd wear the same clothes all week, and next week I'd turn them inside out to make it look like I had something different on. So it's just one of those things we didn't have. So it wasn't so much material things I wanted in life, but the one thing I really wanted to do was to make sure we had food. Like food is so important. So I just really wanted to get a job that my fridge was full, and when I seen it full all the time, and my kids had enough to eat, that was life for me. So so when I got hurt in hockey, I went back to school, and I said, well, maybe I can become a businessman of some sort and get a real good job that pays you a little bit more than hockey did, because hockey didn't pay me very much. We left hockey at 26. I had something like $3,000 in the bank, maybe. That was a bit. So went back to school, and lo and behold, I run into Frank Anzalone. He was the head coach of the Lake Superior State Lakers. Because our hometown is near the city of Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, which is right across the border from Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. And they have the NCAA team called the Lake Superior State Lakers. And I ran into him in the parking lot, and he said, hey, Ted, I heard you play pro a little bit. And I said, would you mind coming out to help the guys out in practice? I said, sure. So I went out and did a couple things. And then about a week later, 2 weeks later, Phil Esposito calls me. Imagine that, Phil calls me. I'm at home. He said, what are you doing helping those Americans out? Because he owned the Sioux Greyhounds, the team that I played for. And I said, well, nobody asked me anywhere else. So he said, well, I'm asking you, why don't you come back and coach the Greyhounds where you played? I said, Phil, I'm going to school. I said, I really can't, I can't take another pay cut to chase another stupid thing. So I'm going to stay. So he talked me into it. He said, just be a part-time assistant coach, which I gladly did. And then 3 weeks later, they fired the head coach, and Phil talked me into taking over. So that's a whole different realm right there, because when you got asked to, it was like somebody asked me, he said, would you want to be a doctor tomorrow? I was so ill prepared. I didn't know what I was doing. And here I was coaching a whole bunch of, prospect kids going up to the National Hockey League and wanting to go to the National Hockey League. And they have a coach behind the bench that didn't know what he was doing. So I had to learn very, very quickly.
I was going to say when I read that part of the book where you talked about how when you found out, from the doctor that your career was ended, you were so happy to be released from that. I was just thinking, like, how did that did you still wind up getting back into hockey and still, and having the coaching career that you had? And I was saying to myself, well, maybe he didn't realize how much he really loved the game at some level still at that point.
No, I think it was complete opposite of that, because when I played hockey, when I was in Kenora, I was shocked and amazed after I left that the coach never once asked me, says, "Ted, how come you're not going to school? Ted, how come you weren't in for curfew last night?" I mean, I was out drinking with a bunch of older guys in town every odd weekend. I quit going to school. I didn't go to school, and they didn't give a rat's behind whether I went or not. Uh, so when Phil asked me to coach, that kind of spurred me on, because my brother was our fastball coach, and I thought he was the best coach in the world. He made us all feel part of the team, and we won a couple of championships and what have you. And our pitcher, Darren Zach, he was inducted into the World Softball Hall of Fame. So we had a really good fastball team. And anyways, so I just took all of his lessons and lessons that I didn't receive, and I really wanted to be the coach that I wanted to have. I wanted to talk to kids about their life, about schooling, and hockey is not. If you're lucky enough to play in a National Hockey League, good for you. But there's so many that are not going to play, and they better have an education in order to do something else and plan for something else. So I made all the kids go to school, and if they didn't go to school, I'd wake them up the following morning at 5 a.m. and I call it a dummy practice, where kids didn't want to go to school. So I had the whole team wake up at 5 o'clock on the ice at 5 o'clock, and we practiced. Then they had to go for breakfast and go back to school that day. And it doesn't matter when. So anyway, I put that rule into effect. The first year we did it 4 or 5 times. The last 4 years I was with the program, we did zero. And now I look back, and the kids have, because we won the Memorial Cup after I learned how to coach a little bit. We won the Memorial Cup, and we have they have a chat where all the former players all jump in, and especially we just had the Memorial Cup this past weekend. And she's all those kids. I mean, one's a chiropractor, one's a police officer, one's a medical doctor. I mean, they're all different lines of work. One's an accountant. I mean, it's amazing. One's a builder. He builds houses and all that stuff. And a lot of them became NHL coaches. Adam Foote, it just became the head coach of the Vancouver Canucks, I believe. Bobby Bugner was the coach of the Detroit. Denny Lambert was coaching in Ottawa. So we had Drew Bannister was a coach with the St. Louis Blues. So all those kids were kids when I had them in junior, but I try to prepare them for life more so than hockey, because hockey is a wonderful thing if you're lucky enough to be one of the chosen ones, but if you're not, boy, it's tough.
I found that looking at your career as it changed, it seems like you drew on those few times where you were able to get some real influential people to take you under their wing while you were playing, because you weren't getting it from coaches. You drew from your family experiences, your mom, your dad especially. And then, like you just said, you also saw things that weren't happening with other coaches. Like you were learning from what people weren't doing on trying, and then you would try to implement what you wish you would have seen on the way up into your own coaching. So tell us how you were able to do that and work your way out of from the Lakers into the NHL. I know you had a couple of stops along the way, and then you were an assistant coach in Hartford. So take us through that.
I just kind of when I got pro, then I had some players would teach me how to angle my body a little bit better going along the boards. So some of these guys are so big, but if you got a good angle on them, you could kind of turn your shoulders and spin off on them, and don't take a hit dead on, just spin off. And so when you're going by somebody, make sure you open up your legs and jump on the other side. So all those little things kind of kept adding up. And then when I became a coach, now I was kind of implementing what I wanted our players to do. And tell you the truth, the first month or so on a job, I was just awful. I was just god awful. I didn't know what I was doing. Uh, but one of my 4 principles in life, and I got 4 that I really strongly believe in, and one is knowledge. And because you don't know, it doesn't mean you can't. You just got to learn how to. So I called up 5 or 6 coaches that I played for that I liked what they did, and I picked their brain. How do you arrange practice? How do you arrange a game or line combinations? What's your ideas about power plays and all this? So I picked their brain, and then one of the best things that ever happened in my life, I went to the library, and I was looking at coaching things, and I went by a bookstore on the way home, and I found Phil Jackson's book, The Sacred Hoops, and I thought it was a spiritual book, to tell you the truth. And I'm going, because I didn't follow basketball at all. I didn't know too much about basketball, and all of a sudden it was Phil Jackson's book, and I started reading it, and the things that he did with his team, how he got them stretching in a room in a circle, how he had an arrow above the doorway to represent power and swiftness, how he had a feather to represent harmony and all those type of things. I'm going, man, oh man, if this white guy from Chicago, I don't even know where he's from, but if he could do that with Dennis Rodman, Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, I'm quite sure I could do the similar thing with teenage kids. So I started implementing my cultural way of life. And then somebody asked me, so what's your coaching philosophy? I could never ever come up with it, but now that I'm out and I had a chance to think, my coaching is I coach the spirit of the individual, not so much the talent, not so much the ability, but the spirit, because we all have spirits. So anyways, I started implementing some of my upbringings, and I brought a medicine man into the room, and I showed him clips on geese flying south, and going, when geese fly, you think that leader's leading the way the whole time? I said, not a chance, because he gets tired. And when he goes back, somebody else got to come up. It's like hockey. We can't rely on which a lot of teams do. They rely on their top guys, and then all of a sudden they get to the Stanley Cup and they run out of gas. So you just learn how to harmonize. And then my upbringing with my family kind of came into play, because I thought I was the special one of the group. I thought my mom and dad loved me the best because I played hockey, or I left home. I was the only one who left home. But anyways, then that was just a feeling I had. Then I heard my sister say the same thing to her friends, how she felt. Then I heard my brother say it. Then I heard my other sister say it. But so we all said it. And that's what I wanted my team to be like, that just because you score 60 goals, you're not going to get a special treatment because you only score 6. So everybody's a part of a very important family. So I just really took that concept and I put it into coaching. And all of a sudden, our team finished bottom place the first year that I was involved. Then all of a sudden, next year we won the league championship. Next year we won a league championship. And the third year we won a league championship. And we won the Memorial Cup the third year and got the pro. And all of a sudden, get the pro and you win Coach of the Year. Then all of a sudden, like somebody just turned off the lights. Your career's over now.
Yeah, that's like a more of the book, which it should be. It was pretty much a major milestone in your career there and in your life, actually, because it had consequences outside the rink for you. So you wind up in Hartford. I believe Holmgren was the coach, and Jimmy Rutherford, I think, who was like a rival of yours at one point in life, playing the game. You met up with him, which was a real cool story. And he gives you the job as Holmgren's assistant. And maybe you can lead us through how that turned into Ted Nolan, the Buffalo Sabres coach.
Well, you know what? We had some heated battles against Jimmy Rutherford's team in junior hockey. He was with the Detroit Plymouth Whalers at the time, and I was with the Sioux Greyhounds, and they had the one of the best teams in order to win go to Memorial Cup. And that year, it was one of those weird years that the winner of the league championship became host of the Memorial Cup, which meant millions of dollars for the home team, because you get to host the four best teams in Canada. And we played Plymouth or Detroit for the championship round, and they're beating us. I think no word of lies, I 6-2 in the third period, and they had a real good team. And as they went up the ice, I pulled the goaltender, and all of a sudden the team starts going. Their team was going, what the hell do pulling go 6-2? Then all of a sudden we made it 6-3. And this is like 8 minutes left in the game. Then they went up the ice and said, that worked the first one, let's try it again. Then we pulled the goaltender out, we made it 6-4. Then we went on a power play, made it 6-5. Then all of a sudden we had another one, 6-6. Then we beat them 8-6. We won the league championship. So so Jimmy, we didn't see eye to eye on a lot of things, but he was in the urinal and I was in the urinal at the NHL draft. And I have to say congratulations, because he was just got the Hartford Whaler GM job. So I have to say, hey Jimmy, congratulations with the job. You'll do a great job there. So he said, what are you doing next year? And he asked me to come to Hartford.
Amazing. And from there, you went from there, right?
Yeah, right from there. Next
year?
Somebody called and asked if I'd be interested in applying for the Buffalo Sabre job, and I went down. I wasn't too sure if I'd get the job, but I went in and I met with Doug Moss. He was the CEO of the team at the time, and he was a high five in New York City type of guy. You know, I really enjoyed him. We had a great conversation, and then I met with John Muckler. The conversation was okay. It didn't go great, but it was okay. And I felt then all of a sudden next day they called me and said I got the job. And I really believe it was, maybe I'm wrong, but it could have been, but I really felt that it was Doug Moss who really pushed to hire me. And it was the best job I've ever had my entire life. One of the best jobs I ever had in my life. Coaching and meeting Pat LaFontaine for the first time, and Rob Ray and Brad May and Matthew Barnaby and all these, their testosterone was going crazy through the roof. They're well-paid athletes, and here I was, my brother, just before I went to training camp, my first training camp, he says, Ted, what are you going to tell those guys? I said, what do you mean? I said, well, they're all NHLers. So they know what they're doing. You only coach a junior. You don't know it that much. They probably know more than you do. And that was the first time in my life that I'm going, you're right. What am I going to tell them? Because I really don't know. So anyway, I went there. I met Pat LaFontaine, and it changed everything. What a gentleman. What a classy gentleman. He walked up to me and said, hey, Ted, thanks a lot for coming to coach us. And he said, you know what? We need someone to climb up that flagpole and point the direction which way we're going to go. You climb that flagpole and you point, and we'll follow you. So that's all he needed to know, and the rest is history. We had a great couple of 2 years there.
When I had was reading through the sections of the book with your first time in Buffalo, and you had described your relationship with John Muckler, I was wondering, obviously, you got the job. Muckler had to give his okay. Did you ever wonder if he really didn't want you there, or if he just was a different way of thinking than you had?
I think it was a combination of both. Our philosophies were totally different, and the way I coached and the way they want you to coach, sometimes that's what I really find a little bit off with the leagues. So sometimes the GM and ownership wants you to play a certain way, and it's like a carpenter. You give them your tools and say, you build a house with my tools, and you're uncomfortable with it. So it's just that's just the way it is. So I felt there was a little bit, and halfway through the year, I still remember coming home, and I told my wife, I said, "That's it. I'm leaving. I can't coach you anymore because I'm told who to play, how much to play them, line combinations, and uh, and the one thing in our culture, we've really learned to respect our elders and take direction from our elders. And so I was listening to John and doing all, but it just didn't feel right in my stomach, and I wasn't coaching the way I wanted to coach. So anyway, I just walked up, and my wife convinced me not to quit. I said, "You just got to tell John that you have to coach the way you want to coach." So I went into his office, told him that, John, I feel uncomfortable coaching the way you want me to coach. I got to coach the way I feel, and from that point on, it kind of went different, where he assumed I wasn't going to listen to him anymore, which wasn't the fact. The fact is, I just really wanted to coach the way I wanted to, and next day it was. And I began coaching the spirit of the individual. Then I got to know the guys, and I got to know Matthew Barnaby, and got to know Rob Ray, and I got to know them as people. Then all of a sudden we were known as the hardest working team in professional sports at the time. So I just loved that opportunity. And when I got let go, it was probably one of the most devastating, upsetting things of my entire life, of how something you could be so good at. It's like winning coach of the year or teacher of the year. Then all of a sudden, nobody wants to hire you the following year. Or, geez, it was really, really difficult and hard. And I took it very personally. I went into a very dark place for a few years. And I was a very nice guy to be around. And I almost lost my family because of it. But thank God, my wife understood and seen some of the things I was going through and why I was going through it, and she kind of mended me back to somewhat normal, to my normal anyway. So I'm thankfully it happened, and I'm very thankful, and I thank God every day that the life I have right now.
So coming out of Buffalo, and it was also that whole situation when LaFontaine and his concussions, and you had Patty's back, and Muckler didn't understand that, and neither did the owners, and that pretty much was the probably the final nail for you in Buffalo, right? And that was right after winning Coach of the Year, the Jack Adams Award.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those. Like I said, I love to compete, and I love to win. But when you have to jeopardize someone's health for it, not a chance. I wouldn't jeopardize anyone's health for a win. I don't care if it was a seventh game of the Stanley Cup final. That's not going to happen, because I think people's lives are a little bit more important. So when Patty got injured, and we had a nice discussion in a room, and he finally opened up to me that things weren't as good as he portrayed them to be. He was having headaches. He was losing memory a little bit. He didn't feel good what he was. So I said, Patty, you're not playing tonight. Go see a doctor. But the team doctors cleared him to play. And so that's where the big conflict started, because then I told Muckler that he wasn't going to play. He said, "How come?" I said, "I told him." I said, "You're not." He told me, he said, "You're not a doctor." I said, "I know I'm not a doctor, but I can tell when someone's not right." And anyways, he said, "You're going to play him." I said, "No, I'm not." Then he got the owner to call me, and he said the same thing, and I just refused to play him. And then Patty and Mary Beth, his wife, took him to another doctor. Found out that he had post concussion syndrome. That if he would have got hit in that state of mind, who knows what could have happened. So it was probably one of the best hockey decisions I ever made my entire life. And all of a sudden now Patty's got his family and doing great things. So, but you never know if he would have played.
And then from there, you had a bit of it, like you were saying, you went into a bit of a dark place, and your wife who's been your rock from the beginning, really, right? With all the different things you had to go through all over the northern part of North America. She was with you all the way. She helps you get back, you get your feet on the ground. You start living a little bit more of a normal life, like you said. Uh, what was that like, those 10 years or so between jobs before you got that job with the Islanders?
It was when I got let go by the Sabres. I didn't understand. I just thought because I didn't really grow up in a system. I didn't go to coaching clinics. I didn't live in downtown Toronto with all the coaches. In the off season, once the season broke, I went home. I went home to the reserve, and we went fishing, and we did all kinds of stuff on reserve with my friends that I grew up, and none of them were in hockey. So I didn't have that social contact with them, so they really didn't know who I was. They just assumed I didn't care. So he goes home all the time. He doesn't care about what he's doing. So when I got let go, it was one of those. Nobody returned my phone calls too much. I couldn't get interviews. And then finally, I did get a job offer by the Washington Capitals. Then the owner liked somebody else's name better than my name. So anyways, I pulled out. And after that, I just kind of went into I went into the self-pity mode. I really took it personally. I was mad at the world. I wasn't a very good man. I wasn't a good father. I certainly wasn't a good husband. And I just went into a very, very dark period of my life. And I said, if they don't care, I don't care. So I just had that screw you attitude, and I just went into a funk for about 3 to 4 years. Probably maybe 2 years, but it seemed like 20. And then all of a sudden, it just clicked one day. My wife, I left. I went home because we have a house in Southern Ontario. We have a house back on a reservation. I went home, and all of a sudden she came up, and we had a talk, and I left my 2 boys with her. We talked a little bit more, and then I finally started feeling good about who I was again. Went in a little bit of counseling, and she said, hockey is what we do. It's not who we are. It's not who we are. So what was I just kind of took that to heart, and I started working on some other projects. And my mother was killed by it, and I think that's one of the reasons why it really, really hurt. When they told me I was drinking, I was drunk all the time. My mother was killed by a drunk driver on reserve when I was 21, and that was a chord that really resonated with me. It really hurt me, and a lot of our people are suffering because of alcoholism on reserve because of the residential schools. Then all of a sudden now they're pointing the finger at me. I'm a drunk too. So that would really, really hurt. So combination of losing your job. So I went back home and called up a few of my friends, and we started the Ted Nolan. We had a golf tournament to raise money for First Nation women in Ontario. And 2 years later, we started the Ted Nolan Foundation. And we named a scholarship after my mother, Rose. And we gave out to this day, geez, we must have raised $2 to $3 million. We're hooked up with 7 universities now. It was the best thing I ever did in my life. I got my family back. My kids were in the home. I was feeling good. Everything was, I couldn't have asked for a better outcome from a very bad situation. Then all of a sudden, the rumors started about me coaching in Philly or in Long Island or somewhere else, but nobody was calling. And I was going to get on the phone and call the TV guys and said, nobody's asking me to coach. You guys are just making up all this stuff. And all of a sudden, I get a call from a Mr. Robert Irving from Moncton, New Brunswick, and asked if I'd be interested in coaching his team. And I didn't even know we had a team. He had a team in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. And it's a French-speaking league, and I don't speak French. And I never coached for 10 years. And I'm going, man, oh man. But I met with him for 10 minutes, And I told my wife going in to meet him that we're not going to Moncton. I'm not. I'm done coaching. I don't want to coach ever again. And anyways, 10 minutes later, I borrowed his phone. I called home. I said, we're going to Moncton. And it was the first time in my hockey. It was the first time in my hockey career that someone wanted me to be part of their team, like actually wanted me to be part of it. And lo and behold, we were lucky enough. We won the league championship. Brad Marchand was on the team. Keith Yandel was on the team. We had a good group of kids. And then all of a sudden, Pat LaFontaine gets the New York Islander advisory job, and he pulls me into Long Island to coach. Then all of a sudden, a friend of mine from overseas called me and said, "Hey, Ted, do you want to coach Latvia?" I said, what team is that? He said, "It's not a team, it's a country." I said, "Who do they play against?" So they play against USA and Canada and Russia. And it's, oh, that's a team that gets spanked like 10-1 or 15-1 all the time. He said, "Yeah, that's them." So when I went over, and it was probably one of the best hockey experiences I've ever had in my entire life. So we coached him, and we're very fortunate to go into the Sochi Olympics. Then I even made my way back to Buffalo. So I just really use that experience now to talk to the young kids or anybody. You know, sometimes when life is so bad and it looks like there's no getting out of it, and you're in a hole that's so deep, you just gotta have faith. You really do. And things in life happen for reasons. Sometimes self-inflicted, and sometimes you don't know why. And all of a sudden I got out, and I had a chance to coach again. And then with my two sons, and on June 7th, me and my wife will be celebrating 45 years of marriage.
God bless.
And we have two sons, and they both played in the National Hockey League. And we have a program called now the Three Nolans. And we go into particularly a lot of First Nation communities, and we run hockey camps. But the hockey is just to get the kids there. Once we get them there, then we talk to them about the importance of education, substance abuses, and food, nutrition, and all those the important things in life. Because kids have a tendency to listen to sports figures once in a while. So we get them in, we get them captive. So best job I ever had working with my two boys.
Well, doing that, we were going to touch base obviously in hockey and all, but you're on that program there, Three Nolans, and are you seeing that things have changed in the First Nation communities from where you were? Because you came from real tough times, poverty. You know, you would think it was turn of the century stuff, and you know, you were born in '58. You're our older brother's age. You know, it's modern stuff, modern times, and you were talking about some impoverished places that it just doesn't sound right. Has it changed any to this point, or is it still being forgotten about by the Canadian government or whatever?
Unfortunately, things haven't changed too much. I mean, a lot of situations that we go. I mean, things are getting better. The few ones that sneak through, but the overall, because of the locations of our communities. I mean, sometimes you have to fly into geography. You have to fly into Winnipeg, for example. Then you got to hop on a bush plane to fly into another community that has one of those little airports, and from there you got to hop on a car or drive across a winter road in order to get in this community of 500 people in this little piece of land in the middle of nowhere. And it's tough. It really is tough, and we got to go in there. And there's no hotels, obviously, and so we got to stay at they call them nursing stations, because the nurses come in periodically to check in on the people. So it is tough, and there's just so many really talented kids, but getting an opportunity, it's really hard. So, but we're starting to see some daylight. There's a lot of kids that are coming. There's a kid that's probably going to be a #1 NHL pick. not this coming draft, but the following draft. His name is McKenna.
Yeah.
So he's a First Nation kid. So
Okay.
maybe he's going to be that next one that drives for, that's all you need is one Pele, one really good player to come along to say, I'll be the torch bearer and you guys follow. So hopefully he's that player. Jonathan Chichu, his community is one of those communities that you can't drive into. You have to catch a winter road or you catch a ferry into his community. And him coming from there all the way to the National Hockey League, boy, oh boy, that hats off to him.
Oh, of course.
Certainly seeing more and more, or at least more awareness, more aware of more First Nation players coming along in the NHL. So that's definitely a good sign, and definitely can be attributed to some of the things that you've done yourself there, Ted.
Yeah,
if we could touch on, go back a little bit, pardon me, on your time with the Islanders. You arrived at a time where you were waiting to get called for a long time, and then you get the call from Charles Wang. And when you got more than one call from him, right? The first one, you weren't able to do it because you were already, I believe, in Moncton. And then you got the call again, and you answered that call, and then you arrive here on Long Island where we are, and it wasn't really a great situation going on because there was a transfer of ownership just happening. He's just getting his feet wet as an owner, and then he was putting together the group think type setup with management, and then the GM situation when Neil Smith got called in and then Garth Snow took his place. Could you tell us what that was like for you to come in and just see this stuff being kicked around like that and not settled? And meanwhile, you got your first job in 10 years.
Oh man, it was probably. I go, what did I walk into? It was just one of those really odd situations where, Charles asked me halfway through the year if I'd be interested in coming at that time, and I just made a commitment to Moncton Wildcats, and I made it for the whole year, not half the year. So I told him thank you, but no thank you. And he said, well, the job might not be here. I said that's fine, but I believe in you give a person your word, you should honor it. So I stayed. Sure enough, they called back, and Neil Smith was there, Pat LaFontaine was there. Everything was, we assembled it. I thought a pretty good group of people, and all of a sudden, before you know it, Neil's gone and Patty's gone. And I'm sitting there by, and you know how it is with if a GM brings in a coach, usually it's not his coach. I knew it was just a matter of time before Garth was going to call me in the office and say, hey, we're going in a different direction, which I respected. I mean, that's his choice. He wanted to do it, and that's fine. I just don't want to get released because we don't think you're doing a good job. I mean, that's the craziest thing ever in the world. But when he called in, he just physiological differences and whatever. So he made a choice, and all of a sudden, boom, I was out of there. But by going to Long Island and watching the Islanders go through their 4 Stanley Cups and being a big fan of a lot of the players that played there, and all of a sudden you're coaching in that same building that Al Arbor coached, and one morning, which was kind of the coolest thing, because Charles, he got everybody involved with marketing of the team, ideas to get more people in the seats, and I liked it personally. And anyways, I walked down the aisle one day, and I seen all the posters of all the guys, Dennis Potvin, how many points and assists, and Hockey Hall of Fame. Then you see Mike Bossy and Brian Trottier and all these, Clark Gillies, all those great players, and Al Arbor. And it said something like 79 wins and 1,499 games coached. And I kept walking, those numbers kind of clicked with me. I'm going, geez, wouldn't it be cool? And I had a meeting with Charles. I said, wouldn't it be cool if we bring back Al Arbor and he could actually coach his 700 89th game or becomes 780, and the 1499 becomes 1500. Wouldn't that be cool? So, anyways, they loved the concept, and I was if I did anything else in Long Island, that was the one of the proudest things I've been associated with hockey.
Now, was
Yeah,
that
well,
like? It was a great game. It was an exciting game. I was glad to pull that one out, and the celebration afterwards. It was just fantastic. So you outdid yourself with that one. I'll tell you that.
yeah,
Yeah,
Islander fans will always remember you for that for sure. It was a short couple of years that you were there, but we'll always remember that. And you did get the chance to spend some time with Al Arbor. So just curious, I know you mentioned in the book briefly how he kind of rubbed off on you a little bit, but did you pick up anything else, from Al just from the time you spent with him? Because he did continue coaching on after that.
yeah. You know what? The one thing sometimes when you go around people that try to emulate how good they really are or what I did and I did this and I did that. Al was not like that at all. He was just a pure gentleman, and you could look at what he did. And he just walks in a room. He amplifies winning. And what the biggest thing I got from him was a classy gentleman. He was just a salt of the earth gentleman, and I can understand why the players played so hard because he wasn't a in your face type of coach and yelling at them. He just give them a direction and let them go out and do their thing. And when we were on the bench during the game, when we beat Pittsburgh that night, I think it was a pretty close game. And I kind of looked over and said, what do you think?" He said, "Now I'm getting nervous." I said, "Nervous?" I said, "Yeah, look at that. You coached 1,500 games in the National Hockey League." And so anyway, so it was one of the um, greatest things I'll remember from professional sports for sure. It's like, anybody in football have a chance to coach with Vince Lombardi. I mean, how many chances would you have to do that? So I had a chance to coach with what I feel one of the best coaches in professional sports, and I got a picture at home uh, with it too. So that's great.
And after that, you wound up back with Buffalo. How did that happen? I know Patty LaFontaine had something to do with that, right?
Yeah, it's the same thing. Patty Patty got me into Long Island, and Patty got me back to Buffalo. And it's funny because I was coaching Latvia at the time. And when he called me, I was overseas, and the week before I called him because I love going to New York City. I love going to Broadway plays. It's something about the city. It's kind of gets you all excited, and the restaurants and the people, and I just love when I seen Saturday Night Fever and John Travolta walking down Main Street. When I went to New York the first time, nobody was around. I walked like John Travolta down that street. Just the whole atmosphere. So, anyways, when Patty got a job in Buffalo and Long Island, he gave me a call and he said, I called him just about a week before. I said, "Pat, I'm coming home next week." He said, "Can you have any ins on getting me some tickets for, I forget what Broadway play I asked him for?" And he said, I'll call you back. So anyway, he did call me back in about a week, and he said, "Ted, sorry about I can't get you those tickets." I said, "Oh, that's too bad. But I got you a better one. I want you flying to Buffalo." I said, "What?" So he just became the advisor there too, and he hired me as the coach of the Buffalo Sabres. And to be quite truthful at the time, I think I was more saying yes to Pat, more so than yes for the job, because I got over that hurt. It was quite a hurt I got over, and I really didn't want to go back. But for Pat, for all the stuff that he did for me, I really wanted to come back for him. And all of a sudden, within a month, 2 months I was there, he was gone again. So it was a tough thing to go through, especially when they're trying to get the draft choice and trying to get Connor McDavid versus Eichel. So, anyways, it's kind of a sad situation. But glad it's over.
So after, after Buffalo, you have this whole world to explore again. what did you wind up doing when you left Buffalo that second time? You must have been wondering, what road do I take here? Do I continue to pound this pavement, or do I take another turn?
Well, you know what? I've there's a couple of things in life that you know personally what you like to do and what you're good at, and I really feel I love to coach. I really do, and coaching is a heck of a lot easier than playing. When I played, it was so hard because I wasn't really all that gifted with my skating ability and puck handling skills and my size and what have you. It was hard to play. But coaching is when you learn to angle off people, and so I took a lot of my upbringing, um, uh, growing up and trapping and fishing and hunting and living in the wilderness for a while. We'd go into the woods for a week, and we wouldn't bring any food with us. We'd live off the land. So I took that same approach into hockey, and I used to watch sheepdogs and how they get all those sheep corralled into this little wee fence, and they put them inside and go the angling of those guys and what they do. So I took a lot of the stuff I learned in that, and I implemented in the hockey, because in hockey, when you're racing for the puck, you're either getting there first, you're getting there second, or you're getting there tied. And you got to know what you're going to do in each situation. And if a guy's coming 100 miles an hour at you, you can't go at him north and south, because he's going to beat you all the time. But if you come east and west on him, there's a good chance of tracking him down. So that's one thing I really love about coaching.
And then nowadays, pretty much coaching is over, and you're more focused now on your I guess your fundraising and volunteer work now with your two boys. Is that pretty much what takes up most of your time?
Yeah, it takes up a lot of my time. We go in a lot of, but I just never, when you call so many teams and you ask and you keep getting rejected, and I've never been able to even get an interview over the last little bit to tell me why you don't like me. So I'm getting an honorary degree here next week, and the lady wrote a little blurb about. She said retired hockey coach. I said I never retired. I just can't find a job. So you have that crazy thought in the back of your mind. Maybe someone will pick up the book one day, or somebody would talk to somebody and say, hey, why don't you give Nolan a chance? So I always have that, because that's all I had when I was a kid. That's all I had was hope and ambition. And if I had that chance, I'll do the best that I could with it. So it's the same thing now. Am I too old? I don't think I'm too old. I mean, coaching, you don't have to run around that much. You just got to tell which line's up next. You have to show them on a film. It's not that physically demanding. But would I have another chance? I love another opportunity, and I think I'd be a way better coach now than I was back in the day, because I think as we get older, you have a tendency to mature a lot quicker and doing some things that you would never ever do when you're some things you did. What the heck I do that for? But you would never do it when you're in your 60s, that you would do in your 30s.
Well, you're saying, you're definitely not too old. And we're looking at you on this Zoom meeting. You look fantastic, and I know you got over a big health scare or health issue. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because again, it goes right to the character of the man and the perseverance and just the never say die attitude that you have that got you through all these other hurdles in your life. Then you had a big one, and here you are looking well. We're hoping you feel as well as you look, and you're ready to take on a job if they come calling. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, somebody told me a long time ago, the power of a set mind is incredible. And sometimes you just got to make up your mind, and then you got to do some things in order to achieve it. So, would I? I'm sorry. The question would be.
Yeah, what did you go through, with
with
the
with
health issue there?
yeah.
Through that.
Then about 3 years ago now, I went for a walk with my wife, where her family. My wife's family is from the St. Mary's First Nation up in New Brunswick, Canada, and I fell and I thought I hit a rock and bumped in my ribs, and I got up and it stung, and then it was painful for a couple of weeks, and finally my wife said, you should go to the doctor, get an x-ray. So I went to x-ray, and doc says, no, nothing wrong with your ribs. So anyways, a week later it goes by, it was still hurting, and I went back again, and this time he does some blood work, and he comes back in and he sends me right over to the cancer ward. And I'm kind of thick a little bit. I'm going, cancer ward, geez, my ribs are sore. And my wife knew right away. And anyways, I went over and I found out I was 95% contaminated, and the cancer that I had was multiple myeloma. It's a blood cancer. And my back was sore, my hips were sore, my ribs were sore, but I just thought it was just sore but anyways, if I didn't go to that, if my wife didn't talk me into going to the doctor, I don't think I'd be here talking to you right now. It was just one of those. Then we had to go into a surgery right away. They did a stem cell surgery. I went in chemo for 4.5 months. I lost all my hair, I had no energy. I was miserable. I was moody. They put you on all these pills. And geez, the pills would psych you up for about 3 days. Like it was you're getting some kind of high. Well, it is drugs, but it would just make you really, really high. Then all of a sudden they'd drop you like a lead balloon. Then I was so emotional and so radical up and down. And thank God my wife stuck in there with me, and then and that's how I started with the power of a set mind. And then I was feeling sorry for myself. I was crying. I Googled on the worst thing people could do is Google. So I Googled multiple myeloma, and I came out and I was crying like crazy. I said, I only got 5 years to live. And that's the life expectancy of multiple myeloma. And then I was an old thing, and all of a sudden they got made better research. So it was just one of those very, very dark periods of life. And I had to tell my 2 sons that I had it, and I felt sorry for myself for maybe about a month. I was whining, I was miserable. Then all of a sudden, thank God I had hockey or sports background. Then it just give you that. If you want to win, you got to work at it. So, anyways, I started walking. I started doing some physical activity. I just started changing my diet a little bit. I came up with a whole different attitude. And all of a sudden it got better and better and better. And right now, knock on wood, it's in remission. Mine's multiple myeloma. It's not treatable, but it's treatable. It's not curable. So who knows if it'll ever come back? But right now, I'm in a good place, and a lot of praying and a lot of exercise, and try to eat properly, and good Lord willing, but it stays away forever.
So it seems to be working, whatever you're doing, and we hope you keep up with it. And the fact that you would say that you would coach again, I think just a testament to the man right here. Attitude, character, the whole 9 yards. You speak of your sons. Tell us a little bit about them, because they followed in your footsteps. You blazed the trail for them, and I know they're well aware of it, because they were young enough to see it all. Like, they were young, but they still saw you as that hockey player transitioning to coaching. Then they wind up becoming NHLers. One even wins a couple of 3 Stanley Cups. Tell us about that whole situation.
It's just kind of one of those things where, like I said, living in the north, I was coaching the Sioux Greyhounds at the time when the kids were relatively young. I built a hockey rink in my backyard again, but this time I had a water hose, and I put boards up and lights, and and I just really wanted him to play the game. And so they played. They took a liking to it. Then all of a sudden, they just kind of climbed up the ladder a little bit. Brandon was probably Jordan will watch this thing, but Brandon was a really good player, but then he got injured really quick, and his mental capacity wasn't as strong as Jordan's. Like he would really good, but the coaches, you got on him once in a while and you let it affect his game, and it took a little while for him to really develop that attitude, and he finally got it to the National Hockey League, and then he got hurt. Where Jordan, he was just he was gifted. He was 6'3", skate, hit, protect himself pretty well, smart player, and got drafted by LA in the 7th round. 2 years later, he's playing with LA, got called up from the minors. They win their first Stanley Cup. 2 years later, they win another one. Then he was with St. Louis Blues and played there. But the best thing about working with my two sons, they both played in the National Hockey League, but both of them, after their careers were going, they both went back to school to continue their education. Brandon went back and got his business and marketing degree, and Jordan went back and he just graduated about a year and a half ago with fireman's certificate. So now he's going to be, but then they get a call from this TV program called Shoresy. so Brandon thought some guy was just pulling a prank on him. He wasn't going to answer it, and he just answered it and talked to the guy. And sure enough, they're on this program called Shoresy. It's a pretty big program on Crave TV, I believe. It's about a Northern Ontario senior men's hockey team, and they're both on it. And actually, they're coming to Long Island, I believe, on December 10th. December 10th, I believe they're coming there. So
you're gonna come down too?
I'm yeah, they're going to LA too. So I think I'm gonna be I think I'll be a groupie that week.
I watched the first episode of that series on recommendation from friends of mine who are big hockey fans. I didn't realize that you boys were in it, so I got to pick it back up and check it out because I hear it's really good.
Yeah, my wife doesn't watch it. There's too much of those F-bombs flying around.
Hey, it's hockey. What are you gonna do?
Especially a senior hockey team in a small northern Ontario town. It's funny. It has its moments where it's really funny.
It's got to bring back some memories for you, right?
Oh, geez, we had some good times playing back then. But yeah. So, anyways, all good. So the boys are really enjoying themselves.
And one last thing as we start to wind up a little bit, we kept you here pretty long and we appreciate your time. You have the two boys and now you have 5 grandchildren, you say, yeah? So yeah. What tell us about Ted Nolan, the granddad? Because I have 1 and 2 more on the way this summer. So, and I know how much I'm enjoying it. I can only imagine what you're doing with 5 of them.
Oh, yeah. I'm the same. I wanted to be the same as my dad. My dad, the only thing he ever asked me about hockey was, do you have fun? And that was pretty well it. He never said, you got to go to training camp, you got to go to stick handling school, you got to do all this stuff. He just asked if I had fun. And I think that's what hockey or sports is all about. Just put the kids in there, let them have fun and make some friends along the way. And so now watching my grandsons play, it's totally different. I watch they both love baseball. They love baseball. They both play hockey a little bit. My youngest one plays a little bit. My granddaughter, Jordan's daughter, she finally asked her dad this year. She wants to play hockey next year. So another hockey player coming. But I seen things changing because my son, my oldest grandson, plays baseball. And anyways, he went out 2 years ago. The first time he ever went out to try out for a ball team. And the fly ball came, and they misjudged it, and they hit him right in the head. Like he had his glove right here, and the ball hit him right in the head. He went down, and he was crying a little bit. And all the 3 or 4 kids ran to him all right away, and Hunter, you okay? You okay? And I was sitting there with my wife. I said, when I was that age, the kids would have said, look at that dumb man, he can't even catch a ball. Look
Yeah.
at that Wahoo. I mean, so things are changing, which is great great to see. So yeah, they both all of them love to play sports. They're into soccer, baseball, hockey. So I just think sports for a young person is a good thing.
That's a great thing. Now, do you keep in touch like you were saying with Brian Trottier? I know he and Rich Pilon have something going on out in Saskatchewan, right? Out in Western Canada with Indigenous people out there. You keep in touch with them?
Yep, I talked to Brian. Actually, I probably owe him a phone call. I haven't talked to him for probably a month or so, or at least. But yeah, I have a regular contact with him. I don't know Rich Pilon that well, but like all the players, what's Dwight King that played with my son in LA. Him and his brother, they have a camp going on in Western Canada also. So Reggie Leach and his son Jamie, they both won Stanley Cups. They have a camp going too. So there's 4 or 5 of us going to, because we have something like 630 odd First Nation communities across Canada. So there's plenty of work and for all of us.
Well, that's great. Well, Ted, we'll let you go. We kept you long enough. You're gonna have to do like a sleepover here if we do it any longer. I really appreciate it, Ray. We really appreciate you coming on and giving us your time. Your book is fantastic. Life in Two Worlds. The two worlds, you brought them together in that book so well. It's so well described. You're a man of character and perseverance. You're an inspiration, and we appreciate you coming on.
Oh, well, thanks very much, Ray and Steve, and thanks very much for asking me to be part of your show. And
We'd love to have you back. If we can ever do it, we'll let you know. Okay.
We didn't bore you too much, so.
Oh, not at all.
No.
Okay.
Thanks again, Ted.